Hello everybody, welcome to this SonicLAB special. We're doing a presentation today because Baby Audio have got a new plugin out which will be available, assuming you're watching this, around about now. So we're here with Michael Hahn, who is a product specialist for Baby Audio. How are you doing, Michael?
Doing very well, happy to be with you.
Excellent. So this is, I think the last thing I looked at instrument-wise was Atoms. And is this the sort of next instrument? Or there hasn't been anything since then, I think. Atoms was the last one, which is a really interesting take on physical modelling. What's Tekno about?
Tekno is a drum synthesizer, so it's sort of all synthesized, built from the ground up drum sounds. A lot of people have been talking to us about the possibility of doing some kind of a drum plugin for years and years now, and we kind of finally settled on a concept that was going to be really exciting to us. And synthesis was really the way to go, as you say, with Atoms. We were really exploring some interesting stuff with physical modeling, and we're not just in the digital domain here. We did do some analog modeling as well, so we kind of have a hybrid synthesis approach with some analog, some digital, and just a lot of magic inside. So we're really pretty excited to be debuting this. It's a lot of fun to play with. The sounds are great, the presets are great, and happy to be showing you what it can do.
Nice. So when you say modelling, is it like component level modelling, or is it more sort of just regular kind of sonic modelling?
Yeah. So when we started out this project, we were kind of collaborating with a developer, Jatin Chowdhury, who you might know from Chow DSP and some other projects that he's worked on for plugins. And he's really sort of an analog circuit modeling expert. Like, he's done a lot of really quite interesting stuff in that domain, working on either analog modeled, component modeled, plugins for saturation and distortion, some guitar pedal stuff that he's done. And we really got inspired for this by classic drum machines, sort of analog drum machines. And there's really a lot of interesting stuff going on at the circuit level in those machines. But, at Baby Audio, we don't really want to do strictly an emulation. We want
straight emulations, of course.
Yeah, we want to take it into the future and take the underlying concepts and see how we can push them for a more modern sound.
So this is the interface here. It's unusual. I mean, it's kind of quite a unique look. I guess you've kind of worked long and hard on this. There's this sort of honeycomb type approach. Are all of these individual voices, or how is that? Actually, wait a minute. Let's just have a listen. Play us a pattern. Let's hear something first.
Yeah, let's do it. So this is, I'll just play you something from one of the preset creators that we worked with to build this, Francis Preve, who created a great kit. Here, hang on, let me just get into view here. We also asked the creators to build us a little bit of MIDI, just so we would have something to kind of make sure that we're showing off their presets well. So this is actually some MIDI from Francis as well. So let's hear that.
Right, so it's sounding pretty punchy.
Yeah, it's quite heavy. Yeah, so there's a little variation there.
So there's a lot of voices. So how many voices is that? Each one of those hexagons represent a voice. Is that how it's working?
Exactly. So you have 18 individual voices, and you have two variations for kick and snare. Some a little more on the analog side, some a little more on the hybrid side. But there's plenty of stuff, your classic sort of rhythm machine voices in there as well. And then just kind of whatever we thought was going to be interesting and was going to provide kind of a full electronic drum kit situation for anyone who's after those sounds.
So you've gone for just direct synthesis. You haven't gone for sequencing on this one, which I personally, I prefer that personally, because I'm used to, the DAW input. And if I have to learn yet another interface for step input or whatever, it feels a little bit of a waste of bandwidth. So you've gone for straight synthesis on this one, and effects presumably, right?
That's right. Yeah. So, I mean, we did there's obviously a lot of discussion around this and whether or not a sequencer would be fun for people. And some people will ultimately prefer, would have preferred that as an option. But, just for the most flexibility, I personally agree with you. I find it a little bit hard to, do a long form composition when you're inside of a plugin, like a sub sequencer to the main sequencer. So just for the sake of flexibility and keeping it as open as possible, we went with just raw synthesis and effects. Which is great. There's no sample-based material at all in here, so it is really a real-time sort of synthesis instrument, which we're really excited about. The effects are kind of, you'll notice that they're also tailored per voice. So, you have a set of effects for the kicks, which might be a little bit different from what we have for the snare. This disper and saturation effects are kind of tailored to these specific voices. And then kind of going through the rest, the cymbals have their own things as well.
So I guess we should, a kick is a good place to start. So what's the sort of synthesis engine? What can we do?
Yeah, so I don't know if you know a little bit about the back, like kind of the under the hood workings of analog drum machines, but the way it sort of works is that there's a pulse generated as soon as the instrument gets like a sequencer or a MIDI event to play. And then in an analog drum machine, that pulse would be sort of shaped by an analog circuit to prepare it for hitting a resonant filter. And then what you would actually hear from the drum is the resonance of that filter. Right. And then there's a bunch of additional tricks, like there's some feedback, some damping in there, and then just kind of unique filter design, which would sort of allow you to get these pitched, tuned sort of drum noises out of it. So that's really kind of where we start with the sound generation for Tekno's voices. So, for example, the kick A and B, they're sort of different approaches to the filter design. So kick A is sort of a digital filter, which is nonlinear, and that just means that it's introducing harmonics in various spots based on what the input is. And then kick B is also kind of more of a direct circuit model.
Okay, interesting. And then so the parameters below in that section will just kind of reflect what that particular voice said. 18 is a heck of a lot of. Well, how come you went for so many? That seems like quite a fulsome number, to be honest. Most you would get 5 or 6, maybe. So how come?
Well, we kind of just wanted to go in whatever direction was going to be interesting. And, some of them, for example, the toms, the low and high tom, the main difference between those voices is actually just the range that they cover. So if you break open the sort of additional parameters here in the calibration menu, you get a pitch range, which refers to this parameter here. So within this range, you can adjust. And then for the low and high toms, they have their separate ranges, and you can kind of tune them to whatever you would need for your session.
Okay, interesting. So are you working with sort of attack portions and kind of front ends, or is the whole thing a sort of single dedicated sound source with something like the kick?
The voices are all self-contained, so you can basically think of all of these as like little tiny synth engines that are kind of doing their own thing. In some cases, they're fairly simple, but in others, there's some unique tricks going on. So, just for stuff like the cymbals, as well as the tonal voices, which have a little bit more going on with them, we kind of dived into some more digital techniques, which really complement the analog stuff well, I find.
Okay, so we've had a look at the kick. Is there stuff like pitch envelopes and the speed of the pitch envelope? That all depends. That all gives you the characteristics of that front end smack, and then the body of the instrument as well, right?
Exactly. So it's kind of an interesting thing with respect to pitch modulation, because you're right, you can hear it in there a little bit if you listen to the kick especially. Yeah, you can kind of hear a little bit of an envelope happening. But what's actually unique about some of these is that in the old drum machines, the envelope qualities, the pitch modulation wasn't always achieved intentionally. So they kind of had these circuits where it's hard to say what the original designers of some of these things would have wanted, but the fact that there's a little bit of incidental pitch modulation is often just a side effect of the circuit. And we wanted to be able to introduce that in the same way, but also have it be a little bit more configurable. So you'll see something like here we have like a pitch mod synthesis calibration. And the way that works is that there's sort of circuit quantities under the hood, where scale, for example, is the amplitude of the pulse. and that affects the modulation, how it would happen inside of the circuit. So there really is stuff that's directly circuit modeled in here, and then just a blend of that with whatever we could do to make it hit as hard as possible.
And I can see there's a click and a body and a drive, which are all sort of elements that you would expect to have in certainly in kicks and many other drum sounds as well. So you can give it more smack if you want and more whatever. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a lot of parameters that are available, but if you just want to kind of sculpt a sound quickly and change the core identity of the sound with respect to these sort of main things you're talking about, the click, the body, and what have you, like that's just right there for you in the synthesize menu, and it's easy to tweak.
Well, maybe let's just have another quick blast of another demo pattern, and then we can have a look at the maybe the snare as well.
Sure. So this is a nice one from Richard Devine, who contributed a kit, which we're really excited about. Yeah, so that's a bit more of the analog retro flair to me.
It's got a TR vibe, shall we say. Nice rim shot, actually.
Yeah.
So those effects that we're hearing per drum, like there's a little bit of reverb on that, are they send effects or are they embedded per voice?
So we have a master section here, which has a couple of send effects. So the reverb is a send. It's a proper send and return. So you have a reverb send per voice. It's available for all of the voices. And then if you were to go into our reverb menu here, you have a master level for that.
Right.
And it's quite a configurable reverb as well, where you have stuff like a tempo synced pre-delay, which is really fun for some patches as well.
So the snare, can we just have a look at what the snare's built up of? Because presumably there's separate sort of tones and body and all of that kind of stuff as well. Okay.
Exactly. So yeah, so snare A, if we look, there's a noise component as well as sort of a low and high component, which are pitched. So the size, I believe, is a sort of multiplier for the pitches they're two pitched components, which are different waveforms.
Right.
And then you have on top of that a noise component, which has some configurability here, as well as sort of the basics, the level of the noise and then the duration, the decay time.
So are they specific characteristics, or for instance, could you kind of take a snare from a TR style to a more of a physical modeled sort of sounding thing? I mean, because you say it's hybrid. I mean, what level of hybridness? I don't know if that's the word. Is there?
Yeah, I think in a lot of cases, the hybrid nature is how we generate the noise and the characteristics of the filters. So, for example, with analog, it can be a little bit difficult to come up with a really sort of inharmonic noise component where, you have something that sounds convincingly like percussion because it's there's more inharmonic partials. So that's challenging with analog. So in some cases, we just said, okay, well, if we really need to generate a specific, style of noise that is going to help make this voice hit, then we can just use whatever means we want to accomplish that. Snare B is probably more on the analog side. Here, I just soloed something there. And you can kind of hear the difference a little bit. There's also kind of a unique thing going on here where we have this repitch control, which, because we're it's digital audio that it's outputting, it's a plugin after all. We do have a little bit of control over the playback rate of the material once it's rendered. So this is just sort of like a ability to do a sampler style repitching.
Okay.
Which is great for making snare sound heavy.
Gotcha.
Repitch it down, but again, it's not sampled. It's just sort of varying the playback rate of that particular voice.
And how about dynamic control? Are there parameters that are mapped to velocity, so you get kind of changes when you're playing dynamically?
Yeah, we do. So we have velocity available from the DAW. So if you have a pattern with custom velocity values, you can obviously use that. It's a little bit less sensitive to the kick and snare. It's sort of more happening in the hi-hats, which is, makes sense. You want to have a little bit more of the accent in your sort of less central voices. But the other interesting thing that it can do is we have this Humanize menu, which can actually add just a little bit of accent changes sort of randomly. It's not exactly random. It's sort of a controlled randomness. But the further you crank this up, the more this human value contributes to the accent.
So you get a bit of variance to the sound and okay, gotcha.
Exactly. And while we're on the subject, the other interesting thing that you can vary is the parameters. So, analog drum machines, we know they're physical components, they're physical systems, and there's drift, and not every hit is the same. And, that's something we really wanted to preserve when we were designing Tekno. But then we also wanted to give users the ability to exaggerate it. So, I mean, if you go and change the parameter humanization to a high value and set the master humanization high, you really will get kind of a... You can hear it in the tonal voices.
Yeah, there's a shift in yeah, which is good. I mean, I always like it when people add humanization that goes too far. So you can go wonky if you want. It doesn't all have to be completely subtle. So that's always a good thing in my mind.
Yeah, I'll show you another. Like if we listen to the pitch component of that first beat.
Right, okay, so there's quite a lot of variation. Oh, that's neat.
When you have it cranked, it will do a lot of variation to the parameters, which in some cases is subtle, and in other cases you can really hear it, and it's a great thing to add a lot of life to your beats.
I guess one thing to ask is, obviously with things like kick drums and low toms and stuff, sometimes people like to play those as melodic lines. Is there that kind of capability in this?
Absolutely. So if you were to just change this toggle right here, there's a ability to toggle between setting the bass pitch. So this is the cutoff of the resonant filter that's excited by the pulse. But you can set that in note values or in frequency values.
Right, cool. And automate that presumably, and or map it. Can you map it to note value when you on an incoming note? Or
yeah, unfortunately, you can't play it with MIDI, and that's just a result of the design where it's like a circuit quantity of the filter, so it's not as easy to assign it a MIDI note, but you can absolutely automate it.
So claps. Everybody's wild about claps. Let's hear some claps.
Yes, so the clap is really interesting too. So when we were designing this as like as a purely synthesis instrument, you think, okay, well, how are we going to really get a convincing clap? And the answer is that you do sort of need a lot of short envelopes on whatever your noise source is, and that's to simulate the pairs of hands clapping.
Right.
So we have, you can go from anywhere from 2 to 8 pairs of simulated hand claps. And then also set this sort of level of spread between each one in milliseconds. So it's really quite an interesting. You can take it pretty far in terms of customization, and there's a lot of different kind of you could do a really long. So you can get really long, kind of crispy ones. Restrict those early components, because it's really it's a balance between these sort of early transients and then the decay, which it's great to be able to tweak that directly inside of the plugin.
Yeah, nice. Well, it's nice to be able to get some really loose stuff as well, isn't there?
Totally. So yeah, with the full 8 hands and then the spread at the high value, you get a really loose kind of clap. And then of course you have pitch control.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so lots of fun there for sure.
So, does it? Are you able to process individual voices separately? Can you get a multi-output situation so you can do that kind of individual voice processing?
Absolutely. So, this is going to depend on how your DAW handles multi-output plugins. So, it varies from DAW to DAW, but it's very simple. You just assign it to whatever bus is available.
Oh, right, nice.
There's the main bus plus 16 stereo outputs, so should be fairly easy for people who want to do that, especially just if you want to get your kicks and snares out to make sure you have your own plugins on those. That's totally doable.
And from what I remember, it's been a while since I used Logic extensively. They fixed, because there were people doing that, building these entire sort of kit submixes, but you couldn't save them as a snapshot within Logic anyway. But now you can, so that means you can bring an entire kit in with all your exact routing and everything. And I guess that's the same in many DAWs as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because the way the voices all interact with the master section is kind of part of the charm with this plugin for sure, where right. If you think of an analog drum machine, there is just a stereo output at the end, and you can clip it, and all that kind of stuff that comes along with it. So we did really want to make sure that there was a really robust master section, and that's where this sort of limiter and clipper came in, which
okay, so you can give it a bit of pump as well.
exactly, and it ended up being a really kind of big part of the sound. I think we put the limiter on there, and we're really excited about the sound, and just wanted to kind of make sure that that was part of it. And yeah, the clipper with the clipper as well, there's sort of an interaction between those two parameters where it will get very, very clipped and very limited. And we wanted to be able to do that just to kind of push these sounds like all the way to the max, which a lot of the presets kind of represent that, but you can also kind of chill it out and have it be more dynamic.
Have you got something with a bit more hi-hat and tops action that we can just have a listen to?
Yeah, let me see what I got here. Maybe this one. So we got some hats in there. Crank that up a bit, maybe. Oops, that's the panning.
Are all these parameters, because there's a lot of parameters there, I mean, are they all available via automation, or are there sort of macros that you use for that sort of thing?
Believe everything would be addressable from automation from that perspective, but I haven't dived in and tried to.
Yeah, there's a lot. So what's that? That's kind of, this one's got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and all the other parameters plus the effects. Yeah, that's 12 per voice times 18. Kind of, it's a lot, right?
Starts to get kind of a lot, and one of the reasons that we were we're looking at all these voices and all these potential configurations, and one thing that we were really excited about for this plugin is the randomization, the preset randomizer that we've created. And this is,
roll the dice.
Yeah, exactly. So you've seen this probably on the last couple of Baby Audio plugins, and in this case it's really handy, especially for people who don't want to dive into, I mean, if you wanted to calibrate this voice to your heart's content, you absolutely could. But the idea of just being able to hit the dice and get something that is interesting is definitely compelling for me. Like,
and you've got dice per section as well. So you've got global dice and then individual section dice, right? Is
exactly.
That what I'm seeing in Simplet? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we can try a couple random settings and just see what we get. See, like, that sounds cool to me. Oops. Really easy to generate something fun and get instant variations on the beats and all of that.
So the kind of circular section underneath the techno name, I noticed that kind of has graphical sort of activity. Does that indicate anything, or is that just sort of purely to show that it's active?
I think you'll just get a representation of the voices that are playing. So if I
okay, gotcha. Oh no, yeah, I see.
Just to kind of see the kind of sequencer style progression of what voice is playing.
Nice. So you mentioned the master section. I mean, how far can you go with the squish?
Well, let's find out. We can grab a maybe we'll go back to the Richard Devine kit here. So yeah, it just kind of continues to get heavier. And then the clipper.
Yeah, that's dense.
yeah. So you can definitely push it. So one of the other things that's available in this mix panel here, so we have two ways of sort of dialing in volume and mixing for the plugin. The first is just this panel right here, or if you hit the master panel, you get kind of a fader bank, typical sort of mixer faders with mute and solo, which is quite handy. But you can also just route sidechain compression between voices really simply using this ducker control. Oh, and it's kick B that's in. So just kind of another way to get the voices interacting and make the beats feel nice and lively.
So this is as we said at the beginning of the video. This should be available by the time people get to see this video. I guess you don't have to worry about shipping or anything. So, what's the target price? Are you doing any specials or anything on the intro?
Yes, so there is an intro offer available. It's $79 down from $129 regular. So that's just sort of to make sure anyone who's interested can get a great price right off the jump. It's available from our website, just babyodd.io/techno. We'll make sure the link's available for everyone. There's a free trial available as well if you want to just download it and see how it sounds for yourself. So yeah, we're excited for people to check it out.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.